Cut it off. No. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to get your word tonight. And Father, I just pray that you just continue to speak to us, Lord, as we study your word, Lord God, continuing our study in Matthew. And I pray, God, that you give us understanding in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. There's so many things I was just looking at in the scriptures, and I know we've been looking at Matthew 24 lately, and I'm going to go there again, Matthew 24, 25. Now, just to kind of give you just a summary on how that works, Matthew 24 really deals with, as we talked about, the events concerning the coming of Christ. And Jesus lays it out really well. And then right around that 29th chapter, he starts talking about the coming of Christ. And then he begins to go into these parables. And one of the common themes in these parables deals with time. Two words really, time and work. And so the key thing in the Christian life is really maximizing your time and our time. And so when I was driving in today, I was just talking to the Lord, just expressing certain things of frustration, just in terms of my own personal life. And I said, well, I get tired of wasting time, and sometimes I can go throughout the day doing different things and realize I'm not really maximizing the time. And I said, Lord, help me not to waste time. And one of the things that can cause us to waste time is the distractions that come. Because there's so many distractions out there, more so than we have ever seen. I remember, I begin to think about, growing up, and Michael can attest to this, growing up, and at midnight, everything was off.
It's on TV?
TV. And you would get like the flag, and it would be like the, and you only had like 13, 14 channels. You didn't have like the cell phones. You had a house phone. So like in my house, you had a house phone on the wall. And so everyone kind of heard the conversation. So you didn't have all the TV, you didn't have the cell phone, you didn't have the internet. And so the distractions were fewer. And now it seems like there's more distractions out there because you have texting, and then you have social media, and you have information so accessible, and sometimes you become so bombarded with the information that comes that it just becomes overwhelming. I was thinking about today, I was watching the news, and I was telling Pastor Don, I said, I'm just really getting this Trump out. It's just like every time you turn, there's something crazy. And there's so many things that can bombard our minds that when it's time to really think about the work of Christ, we're fighting against so many things, and we're competing against so many things. And so it's important to really find that time to really say, okay, let me separate myself from the things of the world and really find myself in God. And then really focus on maximizing time and not becoming distracted. And so that's what I was talking about, really just maximizing time and not to become distracted. So in our studies, we talked about Matthew 25 and 24, and it focuses on time. So I'm just going to look at verse 45 in chapter 24, just to make a segue into our text, which is going to begin in Matthew 25, verse 14. Okay, so now verse 45, it says, "Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household?" Now, I didn't talk about this last time, but I saw this week when I was going over this. And it talked about the responsibility that the master gave to his servant. And he gave him the responsibility over his household. Now that's a big responsibility. I'm leaving, but I'm going to make you ruler over the household. So that means you're responsible to make sure everything is working well, and that you're maximizing your time, maximizing your workload. And so when I come back, I want to to make sure that I have something. And so what he does, the master goes away, and he assigns responsibility and authority to this servant. Now, it's interesting, as Christians, we all have responsibilities. We all have responsibility to God. And so it's almost like what we see is God gives us a certain amount of time. And we have to maximize that time because we have to give an account to the master in the end. What happens when we fail to realize, let me ask this question. What happens when we don't take advantage of our time? Or we see time, we don't see the importance of time in the things that we do? You're losing and you miss out. That's good. Yeah. Idle time. So, and that's what happens. We can miss the opportunities. If I don't understand what I'm called to do, then I'm going to waste time. I'm going to waste time doing things, not realizing that every minute does count, and I have to give an account to that time. So, with this parable, the master gave this servant a responsibility. And it was a massive responsibility. I'm giving you responsibility over my entire household. So with the household comes with the servants in the household. And so that's a big responsibility. And so going back to verse 45, he says, who's a faithful and wise servant, whom his master may rule over his household to give them food in due season. Now it's interesting, what is the responsibility of this servant here? I didn't see this the last time, but I just want to just kind of delve into it. To give them food in due season. So he's supposed to feed them. Let's see. So he's ruling over the household, and his responsibility is to give food in the due time. Is that a great responsibility? Really simple, just okay. Just like I remember growing up with my siblings. My siblings are 6 years younger, and both my parents had to work. And so my parents would say, okay, I'm going to work now. Your job, let me remember that. Your job is to make sure that your brother and sister are eating. That's all you have to do. We're in Matthew 24, verse 45. And so it's a simple responsibility, and then my siblings would try to do stuff, when my parents would come home and say, Terry didn't give us nothing, and then I would get in trouble because that was a simple responsibility. Just make sure you do this. And so the same thing here. He's telling the master is telling the servant, I want you just to feed those in the household. Okay. Now verse 46, it says, blessed is the servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. And that's what we're talking about. So when the master comes back, he wants to make sure that we're doing something. And not sitting around just watching TV and doing nothing, So when I come back, I want to make sure that you are maximizing your time. And now this is interesting, and I want to find you doing. Now, do we know when the master is coming back? So what does that mean? So whenever he comes, we have to be doing, because it could be a moment that we could be sitting and the master comes. That means we're not doing. So that means I'm always, I'm eating, sleeping, doing. I get my rest, I get my nourishment, and I'm always doing something in the kingdom. So, because when the master comes, I want the master to find me doing things. Amen. Okay. Now, verse 47, he says, for surely I say to you, that he will make him ruler over all his goods. Now, in verse 45, what did the master do? He made him ruler over what? His household and possessions, okay? Now, in verse 47, what does it say? Over all his goods. So, if I come and find you doing, now I'm going to reward you with more responsibility. But if I don't find you doing anything, then I'm not going to give you more. Actually, I'm going to take some from you and give it to someone else. So, does the master give him all the responsibility at one time? No. Does he do it in stages? So do you think that's how God does with us? I give you a little bit of responsibility. Let's see how you do. Okay, now you did very well. I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you more. So right now I'm teaching Victoria how to drive. So, little by little, I'm saying, okay, now let's try this. We're not going on the main road yet. We're going to go around the corner, make sure, and we're just going to go in circles. So we started out in the parking lot. Now we start out in the street, and the more that she becomes familiar with it, then the more I put on. And that's the same thing with us. So with here, the master says, if you keep on doing, I'm going to make you ruler over all. Now that's interesting. All his goods. That's everything. Okay. Now, verse 48, but if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, then and begins to beat his fellow servants. Now, what is he supposed to do with those in the household? He's supposed to be beating them. He's caring for them. But because this is a wicked and evil servant, now he's doing harm to those whom he's supposed to be taking care of. He's beating the servant, and then he says, and he's eating and drinking with the drunkards. So he's not doing, what is he doing? He's partying. Then verse 50 says, the master of that servant will come on a day when he's not looking for him, at an hour that he is not aware of. And then what is the outcome of this servant in verse 51?
Shall cut him asunder, and appoint his portion to the hypocrites. There shall be action.
Now let me ask this question. How much, now this is Jesus giving this parable. How much weight does he put on responsibility of the believer? A whole lot. Now, do you think that the master would have grace upon this person who was doing nothing and beating the servants and eating and drinking? And he would say, you know what, I'm going to just let you go. I'm going to come on in anyway. Okay, you didn't do anything, but come on into the kingdom anyway. Now, Jesus is giving this parable. No. He's saying, because you didn't do, then he talks about hell. Now, this evil servant goes to hell. Why does he go to hell?
Because he didn't obey the commands. He didn't do what Jesus wanted him to do. To do the right thing, take care of your fellow man.
Mm-hmm. So he didn't do what Jesus wanted him to do. And Jesus puts so much value on doing. So let me ask this question. So when we come to Christ and come to Christ, are we supposed to just, okay, I'm saved now, and then that's it? What are we doing? Because that's what Jesus, it's like someone said, Jesus, we're saved to serve. And not saved just to kind of sit around. So that means as soon as I give my heart to Christ, I'm doing something. And I thank God for my mother, because when I turned, I guess you were baptized at 10, and when I turned around at 11, 12, she said, so what are you going to do in the church? And I said, you know what, I'm an usher. Because I always loved Whenever you said you're going to do something, no, she didn't. When people got saved, they came in, they tried to do something. Meaning, it's always what you're doing is you're working out your soul salvation. What happens if you do nothing? You backslide. You know, you become idle. You don't do anything. Because sometimes, if I'm constantly doing something, it helps me out. Just like me. Like every time if I get sick and I have to stay home, it drives me crazy because I'm like, I just can't just sit, you know. One of the jokes that I have with Pastor Donna is that when we go on vacation, she said, okay, what are we going to do on Sunday? I said, I'm going to find me a church. I got to sit somewhere, you know. But that's just me. I have to keep on going because if I'm idle for about 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, what happens when you're now idle for about several weeks? You backslide, you know, the first week, you say, okay, all right. Second week, you know, just like, you know, I've been unemployed, you know, when I got employed, I had to make sure I had to do something because if I sat around the house, you know, all of a sudden I'm going to be watching TV, I'm going to be snacking and eating popcorn and stuff like that. So we were made to do. And so when Jesus saved us, he saved us to serve. And that's key. And to maximize the time that he has given us. Okay. So here in this parable, the lesson here is to live our lives as if Christ Jesus is coming back. All right. So any questions on that parable? We talked about that last week. Okay. And then chapter 25, verse 1 deals with the same thing we talked about. I'm not going to delve too much into it, but I'm just going to read it here. It says, then the kingdom of heaven shall be likened unto 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now 5 of them were wise and 5 were foolish. Those who were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. But while the bridegroom was what? Tarrying or delay. So the same thing. Always a delay. All right. While the bridegroom was delayed, they all slumbered and they slept. But at midnight a cry was heard, behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. Now verse 8, and the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. And I like this part so much because they didn't maximize their time. When it was time for them to have some oil, they needed to get some oil from somebody else. You know, instead of having oil, you know, they needed to say, okay, give us some of yours. And I was thinking about this yesterday. Maybe it was yesterday, 2 days ago. I said, Lord, you know, I need all of the oil that I can have. I mean, I really do. I said, I can't. And the key thing, we're not supposed to give our oil. We're supposed to teach people how to get oil. Now, we use our oil in ministry, but as we use our oil, we teach people, this is how you get the oil. Okay, you need to pray. So as a pastor, I need to teach you how to pray. I need to teach you how to get into the Word. I need to teach you how to fast. I need to teach you how to worship. And as I do those things, what's happening, you're now accumulating your own oil. Now, am I with you all throughout the week? So do you think you're going to need some oil for yourself on Wednesday and Thursday? And Friday? So it's important to get our own oil. With these 5, they didn't do anything to maintain the level of oil. Now that's important. How do we maintain that level of oil? Busy, do it. Come to Bible study.
Reading the Word.
Reading Meditating on the word. And by that, you're maintaining that level of oil because you're using that oil. So, just like the lamp the candle that we had lit last week, every time I light that lamp, it's burning oil. So I have to make sure I maintain the oil level because something is always depleting the oil. It's just like throughout the week. There are things that are pulling out oil. This crisis, any crisis that we deal with, pulls from the oil. So if I'm dealing with this, something's being, depleted. And so what happens if I don't replenish after a week or two of being depleted? It's so important because what happens now, let me ask this question. Can you feel when the oil is going down? But can you feel it before you run out?
Knowing that you're losing a grip on it, you don't know when it's going to just finally give up. I think that's worse than actually just giving up altogether. What you have to look forward to. That's when everything, the world takes its course.
Yeah. That's important. I remember one time I sat there in the supermarket and I said, you know what, I'm going to get some gas. And then I got distracted because somebody called me on the phone and I'm supposed to run because I knew I was this low on gas. And so I'm talking on the phone with my car on. And all of a sudden I hear this. Because I got distracted. And now I have to go into the store, get one of those big gallons, gas gallons, walk all the way down to the place, come back. But the problem at that moment, I got distracted. A phone call came in. I forgot I had to get gas. I'm talking on the phone and ran out of gas. I want you to say, don't allow anyone to distract you. About the time you're about to go to church or about to get into prayer or something, and somebody calls you, but you're right at that point, you're about to run out, and somebody calls you at the wrong time and depletes the very last bit of oil you have. So these 5 foolish ones, they missed the opportunity of replenishing the oil. And so when the bridegroom came, they were asking in verse 9, it says, but the wise, so let me just go back to verse 8. And the foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered and said, no, lest there should not be enough for us and you, but go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, as we talked about, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. Now, the same thing we see in the first parable. He wasn't working, they weren't doing anything, opportunity missed. This one, again, opportunity missed, the door was shut, and then verse 11, and the other virgins came and said, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, surely I say to you, I do not know you. And then this is the word line that Jesus gives in verse 13. Jesus says, watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. So that's what he's really talking about. He's talking about the coming of the Son of Man. All right, any questions on these 2 parables? Any thoughts?
Instead of just saying, the Lord, where this is coming from, it's the Lord. Wow. It was the whole bride and the virgin. Marriage. Why did he say that?
They were preparing for the wedding feast. So what's happening is there is a wedding feast coming at the end, and Jesus is in the room. And so And when everything ends, that's when we all come together, we feast with the Lord. And so from that time, before that time, people have the opportunity to really get themselves together for the wedding. Now there is a parable, and I can't think of where it is. It talks about the marriage feast, and then the invitation was given, which was interesting, and everybody had excuses. Let me remember that parable. Where is that? I cannot see. But in it, there was a wedding. I think it's in Luke.
But Jesus is usually referred to in the Bible as the bridegroom.
Yes. So when we see the bridegroom coming, it's really talking about when Christ is coming back. When he comes back to get all his people. But I want to find something here. I think it's in Luke chapter 19. Should be 19. It talks about the marriage feast. Maybe while I'm looking at it, somebody can scan and find Google Feeds. But that's very important.
Yes, I'm sorry, 14, 15. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Clifford. Yeah, Luke 14, 15. And this kind of, we can tie this into Matthew 25. Actually, this is really interesting. It says, now when those who sat at the table with Christ heard these things, he said to Jesus, blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. And then he said to him, a certain man gave a great supper and invited many. Now this is really good. And he sent his servants at supper time to say to those who were invited, come, for all things are now ready. So right here, he's giving an invitation to this wedding feast. But they all, with one accord, began to make what? Excuses. Now, this is interesting. Now, let's look at some of these excuses, and you tell me what you think here, or see. The first one said to him, I bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see to it. I ask you to have me excused. Now, what do you think about that excuse? Now, this is like the culmination of all things. Christ, this is like it. No, I can't go. Because I bought a piece of ground. And I must go see to it. I ask you to have me excused. Then another said, I have bought 5 yokes of oxen, and I'm going to test them. I ask to have me excused. Still another, I have married a wife, and therefore I can't come. Now that's interesting. I just can't go.
His excuse is even worse.
So, do people make excuses?
All the time.
You know, I wish I would become more serious for God, but I would come to church, but you know, I have to go get my hair. Like someone told me one time, person blew me away. You know, he said, "Yeah, I can't come because I had to go get my hair done on Sunday." And it blew me away. I was like, "Wait a minute!" I said, "You had to get your hair done on Sunday, so you couldn't come to church." Or I have to do laundry on Sunday, or you know, a lot of excuses. All right, let's look at this. So we see 3 examples of excuses. Now, verse 21. So the servant came and reported these things to the master. The master is Christ. Then the master of the house, being angry. Now, why was he angry? Now this is interesting. So now you see the term hanging.
Just give you the invitation. I, knowing all the ways offered, making excuses not to go, not to accept.
So is Jesus being nonchalant on this, or is he really serious? I mean, this is a serious thing in the mind of God. He said, I'm giving you an invitation to come to the wedding feast, which I prepared for you. And these excuses worthy of not going? What's more important, your eternal salvation or a piece of ground? What's more important, your eternal soul or a piece of oxen? And then the funny thing is, what's more important, eternal salvation or your spouse? I'm sorry, I just can't come. No, I remember someone just said to me one time, they were doing well in God, in Christ. And all of a sudden, an old boyfriend came back. And she said, Pastor, God has blessed me. My old boyfriend came back. And since she stopped coming to church. She just stopped. Because the boyfriend came. And it's funny. Sometimes people come to the altar to pray for things. And once God gives them those things, then they walk away from God. But it's not that they really want God, they just want the old boyfriend. Or they want something, and then once God blesses them with that thing, okay, now I'm good, I'm blessed. No, you're not. You're not. Anyway, let's move on. So, verse 21. So the servant came and reported these things to the master. The master of the house, being angry, said to the servant, go out quickly into the streets and the lanes of the city and bring in here the poor and the maimed and the lame and the blind. He said, okay, all these special people who denied it and didn't want, forget them. Did Jesus take any more effort to go reach those people? Did he send the servant and said, okay, all right, they made excuse. Why don't you go back and see? Ask them the question again.
It's like when I sent out the disciples to cast out demons, it's like if someone lets you come into your house and once they get hurt, great. If they don't, then you do what God said. Overall, don't force anything on them. They don't want it. But it will come where they'll not pay for that. Just like that.
It's interesting because when you think about it, it's really personal responsibility. Everybody has a personal responsibility to take heed. We can waste so much time trying to make somebody come that have no desire of coming. I was talking to Pastor Donna the other day, and I thought about the scripture that says, don't cast your pearl before swine. And I looked at that even in more detail, and it said, Jesus said, don't cast your pearl before swine, lest they trample over the pearl. Then once they trample on it, then they turn against you and tear you to pieces. I thought that was deep. Okay, yeah.
It's so not really, but metaphors. Don't cast her on the swine. So what is that?
Well, pearls are something of value.
So like a gift, something that God gives you, something like that.
One at a time, don't
Yeah, because you cast that which is valuable. Because they don't understand the value of it. First of all, they take the pearl and then they crush it. So that's insulting right there. Imagine you, Terry, giving someone a piece of jewelry, something of value, and they take it, and they just throw it, crush it, tear it apart. I mean, how would that make you feel? A set of china, that it was handed down from generation, and he said, this is a gift to you. And they take that thing and they just start throwing it all on the ground.
Listen.
And I'm guessing the swine represent something.
Swine, or something unclean, because in the Old Testament, swine was like, unclean. So Jews can't eat pig, pork, and Bible talks about that. Having something valuable before swine. And so they take it, they look at it, they step on it, crush it, tear it apart, and then after they do that, then they turn around and look at you, and now they're coming after you to tear you to pieces.
It's just like the world now with Christianity. It's just like the world now with God. They try to take what we don't do, what the person is God. And they're going to try to defend it and, make it negative as possible. And then pretty much crucify you for following God.
And the real test, if you want to know whether you're casting your pearl among swine, take notice of the response of the person after you do something for them.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said, if you want to know that if you're casting your pearl before swine, take notice of the action of the person once you do something for them and how they respond to you. If you do something for them and now they start talking about you, tearing and running your name in the mud, you just cast your pearl before swine.
Or
Set
even
them
if
straight.
for the first time we're doing so much and somebody will say no, and it's always, pigs.
Because they can't handle things of value. But if you find someone else and you take that piece of china that was handed down, and say, oh, thank you, and then they just put it in a nice place, take care of it, and put value. Now you know you cast your pearl in the right place. That's a good lesson.
Even in this lesson, you said they had people who have property and have ox and animals and marriage. Now he's saying going to the street, get the land, you're going to a different degree of people.
Yeah.
Now you're going to less fortunate. And sometimes people think that God is not for the less fortunate.
Okay, about
But he's there. He's saying he's there. He's going to the street and bring peace. You know, you have your high class, you got your low class, and some people in high class think, oh, it's only God is only for us. But he's saying, those people don't even know the value that I have. So just go to the lower class people and pull them all in. They will value their value to be different.
Now that's a very important point, because does everyone value what Christ offers?
And also, you said it's like, God gave you the opportunity to have that piece of land. God gave you the opportunity to have those oxen. God gave you the opportunity to have that wife and marriage. And I was asking you to, have set aside time for the invitation for this, for your eternal salvation. You would say no. It's like something this word.
They're acting as if, oh, I'm doing him a favor if I show up. Okay, like, look at it, that's what, oh, I don't have to attend, he just is an invitation, and I'm gonna find an excuse about any of this, with knowledge situation. Somebody's going to, no matter what level, social status, or, whatever you stand in the economic surroundings. This is a great ball, fancy party, high class stuff. I like to see that. You're being invited to something big and grand. I just bought land, I gotta go check it. I just got married, I will obviously know. I got some animals at home. Like, you really think that you're doing them a favor. But at the end of the day, no one wants to lose. Because Mr. Oxen and Field and Mary, now you just let, you know, your tendencies and go to someone else who you don't even see worthy of a position like that. Yet it's still God, you know?
And that's an interesting point, because now, so you have, I mean, there's a lot of things you can see in this. So you have different class of people, or, and it doesn't have to be class, it could be just religious people.
But I also think that on the other hand, the poor, the maimed, the people on the street, they've never been invited to a fancy party.
Yeah.
So they'll come into this fancy house and they will truly value what's there.
Yes.
Because they've never had that. So that group, I think, will truly value more of, wow, you know what, this is what Jesus is bringing to me, and a whole new world opened up for those people. So I think it serves them even better than, you know, the rich that can afford to buy land and oxen, and because they already think they're blessed.
Right.
These people on the streets never thought they were blessed, but for them to go to this, wow, this is truly a blessing. I've never had a fine meal.
And it's, I mean, it's, I'm seeing a lot of things open up even
Like
in this
people,
world.
they can see who appreciates something.
Mhm.
Because they, like you said, Terry, you know, some people say, well, I'm just blessed. Oh, I'm blessed. I remember one time we were doing some evangelism, and I think, I don't know if it was you or, and we had the need prayer cards.
We went to the street. Oh, yeah.
And then I asked, you know, I said, can I pray with you? Is there anything I can pray for you about? No, I'm fine. I said, well, I don't know about you, but I can use some prayer right now. I said, how? And I was hearing it. No, house is good, car, job. No, good, no prayer. Because sometimes people say they think God is blessed. They're blessed because they have those things, and that is the indication that they're blessed.
Which is false.
Which is false. No, I don't need anything. No, the house is good. You know, the car is good. You know, money and
That's a blessing. Blessed. It's a blessing to have those things. Not everybody has it, but I don't think that means that you're blessed.
So it's all honest.
I think you're blessed, and he gives you those things. He blesses you, and he gives you blessings. But that does not mean he didn't give you those blessings for your own pleasure, to say this is all mine, but now that I'm blessed, let me go out there and bless someone else. Because I am blessed. I think you're supposed to continue blessing others or start blessing others. It's not a... I have an interesting story of a very wealthy client. And her story was, you know, I had so much money, in English, everything is perfect, but her marriage was not perfect. And some friend invited her to her church years ago, and she never went. You know, she caught up in her luxurious lifestyle. She was cleaning her drawer one day and found a card that a friend had given her to this church. And she goes, oh, I can't believe I found this years ago. And she went to the church. The church was going on a retreat. And she said, you know, I think I'm going to go to this retreat. She went to the retreat for 3 days. When she got back, her husband was angry. How could you do this to me and the kids? How could you leave us for 3 days? He pushed her. And she was hurt. And a couple days later, he felt sick. And he was in the hospital for 3 days. She took care of him. And she said after that point, she beginning to ask God, why am I here? And she said, Terry, today I could tell you why I'm here. She went back to school. She got a job in New York City, helping young women who were battered, and in sex trade, sex slaves. And just listening to her yesterday and the joy on her face. She's so happy now. She's divorced, but she's so happy. But what she said to me struck home. She said, for years, I was asking myself, why am I here? She said, and now I found my purpose. She said, when I help these girls and see the look on their faces, I'm so happy. She said, I go out of my way that my supervisor's like, you know, you could get fired for doing that. She goes, but it doesn't matter, because these girls, the look on their faces, and the young men in with the pants down here, and she said, I'm not judging them, that's their thing, but she goes, Terry's dirty underwear. And I reached out, and Target gave her underwear for them, and they had no towels, and she reached out and got towels. But she said, the peace that I find now in myself. So that tells me that her blessings that she had, all this luxury and this wealth, she still did not have that peace. And she said, now I have it. And you could see the joy on her face. That she was so happy telling me this that I looked at her and said, is there anything we can do, you know, to help? And I find myself having a meeting with employees later to go, look, we need to do something. Because she said, she said, stuff you get when you shop at the stores and you get sample perfume, sample moisturizer. She said she gives it to these girls, and she said, Terry, you see their faces. They've never had anything like this. It's like no one ever cares. And here she comes, and she said, that keeps me going every day. So it stayed with me because of that seed that was planted years ago, where she got a card, and cleaning this drawer found this card, went to this retreat, and began to talk to God and form a relationship with God, and found the answer to why am I here? And I said to her, to serve, and she said yes, and I'm doing a great job and I'm loving it. It's amazing, I think, how God works. That because you're blessed doesn't mean you should just sit on your laurel and I'm blessed, I'm good.
That's what I was going to say too. We get confused, or we mix things up. You can have cars, you can have a house, you can have money, but if you don't have peace. Materialistic things aren't necessarily blessings. It's good to have them, but you know, if you get something that's materialistic, everyone wants to say, oh, I'm blessed because I have this new car, or I'm blessed because I have this big house. But you're blessed when you have in peace and the heart of God. And you know, once this lady who didn't, at that time she didn't need to, you know, she was financially well. She didn't need to, you know, to do anything to help anybody else, but because she found a purpose and a willingness and a desire to help these people. Now, her peace, her inner joy, her relationship that she found with God is a blessing. Now she is blessing other people. That's how blessings work. It's not materialistic things. And that's because we're looking at things from a society point of view.
Materialistic.
Society says, I have this BMW, this, what's that one? The one with the three?
The Benz.
Society says if you have this thing, you're somebody. So we attach having these things with, oh, it's not somebody, I'm blessed. But internet is just stuff. Cars know about something that you ain't got back.
Because they use those things to identify themselves and their peace. You know, they'll even throw it at you. People park and we're like, where did you park? Oh, I'm out front. What? Can you drop these quarters? Okay. All our question is, what's your license number? That's all we need. Oh, it's the blue Benz in front, or it's the white Mercedes. And bottom line, I really don't care.
Yeah.
But I find that they use that to identify who they really are. Look at me, I have this Benz. It's the blue Benz. It's the white Mercedes there. And when I listen to those, especially those people, they are so mean, so miserable, so, you know what I'm saying, that you know that the inner peace of God is not there. So it's the things. And if you don't have that, they look at you like, God didn't bless you.
Yeah, and that's true. A lot of times people say, well, you're not blessed because, you know.
I think that some people, they just put a limit, they put a limit on God. I'm blessed because I have this. That's not the blessing, that's just what you had. Like I had a client, you know, he had this new bed, and he said, I got this bed. You know, he had these kids, he wanted to take with me. Get the kids to buy the car. No, you do that, they can take it with you. So that's what you're saying, like when people have these things. If you got this fancy bed, then give these kids the unfortunate life. Take them out of life. That's being blessed. Then you really blessed. Because it's a car, something that you have, you know.
But you know, but it's interesting though, because that was the excuses that these people made. You got a piece of ground.
But didn't Jesus tell that rich man to sell your stuff?
Yes. God said, what can I do?
Right?
Yeah.
What must I do to inherit eternal life?
So everything follows me. Oh, no.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but actually, there's two questions. He says, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And he says, keep all the commandments. And he says, well, I've done it, kept them since I was a young man. Then Jesus said, now if you want to be perfect,
You know,
sell it all. But you know, he didn't make it to the kingdom. He didn't. Because now, did Jesus go running after him? Does Jesus just go constantly running after people who don't belong?
But then it raises that question in my head that when he said it is easier for a camel to get to the eye of a needle than a rich man. And sometimes I wonder, like, okay, so he gave some blessings to the rich man, so he got rich. So does that mean after he got that blessing, those blessings, he didn't really bless anyone or serve the Lord, so he really can't get there into the kingdom?
Because he wasn't able to relinquish. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having blessings.
Right.
Yeah, because in the Bible, a lot of people were materially blessed.
Abraham was very blessed.
And even some of the women who Jesus ministered, they supplied his needs, so they were blessed. But the problem is relinquishing, you know. So, yeah, so, okay, the king is summoning me, excuse me, something like that.
Somebody.
He's calling me.
Yes, he called them.
Calling me. He's calling me. It's just, yeah.
Sometimes my brain, the things just kind of switch. My brain. But he called them, the king was calling. I have this feast. A little piece of land. It's too important. And that was his. And so, you know, just going back, so he calls the, you know, the lame, the blind, the naked, and they were willing to go in. Okay, let's listen to 22. Okay, yeah, so go out quickly into the streets and the lanes of the city, bring in here the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. And the servant said, Master, it is done as you commanded, and there is still room. Then the master said to the servant, go out into the highway, you know, let me heard that. Go into the highways and the hedges and the byways. This is what he talks about. Go into the highways and hedges and compel them to come, that my house may be filled. Now, verse 24, what does it say? But I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper. That's the kind of statement.
They're lost.
They had the opportunity, but Jesus said, oh, if you don't want me, and that's the key thing. Jesus said, if you don't want me, then
I don't want you either.
You deny me before men, you get all funny before me, you know, I don't want to confess that Jesus is Christ. Then he said, guess what? When I stand before the holy angels, I'm going to do the same thing. And that's the last thing I want to hear. You know, Jesus standing there, you know, do you know this guy? No. How did he get in? There's another parable that one guy actually got in, and they said, how did he get in? And they kicked him out. He wasn't supposed to be there. He kind of slipped in. I can't find that one, but it's some, yeah. But see, the key thing is Jesus is so, and this is what people need to understand. Christ Jesus is serious in what he means. I'm giving you an invitation. I'm not going to force you. I'm going to make you. Once you say no, I'm going to go to the next person. But somebody's going to want to come to the marriage supper. Somebody's going to want to come eat. And then the people whom we least expect, those are the ones that will come. Jesus goes, yes, go and get. And it's amazing that even in ministry, Jesus will take the alcoholic and make him a leader. The ones whom the church has rejected, the ones who the Pharisees have rejected, he said, well, you know what? He said, you know what? I'll take them. Y'all don't want them? I'll take them. I'll clean them up. I'll make them a leader. I'll take this person. Yes, she was a prostitute. I'll clean her up and make her this. I'll take this other person who's a drug addict. I'll clean him up and make him this. Because it's not about, it's all about the person who wants to embrace. It has nothing to do with status. It doesn't have nothing to do with longevity. You know, I've been in the church for 25 years. That means absolutely nothing. The question is, do you want? And when the invitation is given, will you embrace?
Amen.
Amen. That's key. And so when the invitation is given, yep, I'm there. And get there early. And then the last thing is, can we relinquish certain things? Can I relinquish? Yes. And I'm willing to ask the key thing. And I must be willing to relinquish. And some things are seasonal. God said, okay, I'm giving you this for this season. Okay, now I have something better for you, because God will never take something from us without giving us something better. But I have to be able to relinquish the old to get the better. So these people, they kept their plowed land and burning in hell. They kept their oxen, and I hope you enjoy it for a good while. You know, because how long do we live on earth anyway? You know, I mean, okay, I lived to see 70, maybe 80, maybe 85. What's that in comparison to eternity? I may enjoy it. I may enjoy the car, enjoy the house, enjoy the money.
But isn't that like idolic, I think? If you, like that guy with the car, like this means the world to him, who probably doesn't go to church because you got to clear the car clean. Isn't that like idolatry in a sense?
It is idolatry.
Money, some people, nothing wrong with having money, but when it becomes the most important thing in your life, and that's what you worship, I can't go to church, I gotta go to work because I gotta make more money than this need. But isn't that
It's idolatry.
idolatry?
The car becomes God. The house becomes God. The children becomes God.
Mm-hmm.
Some people's children are God.
Yeah.
No. I remember, you know, do you want to go to church today? No. My father said, you know what, I don't care if you work overnight. That was I was raised. My father said, okay, like my brother, you know, we would go out and party when he was young. My father said, I hope you had a good time at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because Sunday morning, we were all in church. He was serious about that thing. You know, he was like, no. And his reason was, he said, when I was in college, I worked, went to college, at the same time, raised 2 children, and church was a priority. And thank God, because of that foundation that he laid, because now that impacted all of us in church. Yeah, he was went to Seton Hall, went to school full time, worked full time, and it was just me and my little brother. And finished in 3 years, full time. It's that generation, you know. But nowadays, children become God, and children do whatever children want to do. And parents don't want to really be parents because they just want to just make the child happy. Right. I remember.
You don't raise your children, or you buy children, grown children.
I just remember one story. My brother, younger brother, wanted to play Pop Warner football. And so he went out there, went to the practice and everything, and the person said, oh yeah, well the games are on Sunday. And my father said,
Well, that's it.
nope.